Have I ever told you what convinced me to start my YouTube channel? What got me into politics? It was a sex scandal of all things. And because the lady had connections, she knew forum moderators, she knew people in the tech industry that were connected, she knew journalists, she managed to cover it up. You couldn't talk about it almost anywhere on the internet. If you went to a video game website and you'd go to the forum and you'd talk about it, you'd get banned. If you talked about it on Reddit, you'd get banned. If you made videos on YouTube, you'd get DMCA'd. If you talked about it on 4chan, you would get banned. And that to me was very concerning at the time because you see, back then this never happened before. Like the internet, believe it or not, was a free space. There were a couple of forums that had moderation, like you couldn't impersonate someone, you had to be respectful towards the mods, or you couldn't say some curse words here and there, but every forum had different rules, and they never worked together in order to suppress something. Kind of weird thinking about how it was back then. I think it was like, 6 or 7 years ago. The sex scandal is called Gamergate. And that's when I realized that this is kind of dangerous because corporations, like let's say Microsoft, can push a product that's literally spyware into your own house, like the Xbox One, which came on with online only and connect a video camera that was supposed to also be online all the time, and it would monitor your heart rate. It would basically monetize your body in order to put it in a data so that Xbox can sell it to game developers and they can figure out, all right, so at this portion of our game, the heart rate went up and, the player enjoyed this a little bit more or whatever. So you pay money for a product and then Microsoft can make money off you yet again by collecting your personal information and sell it to the highest bidder. Of course, people complain, but what if Microsoft would pull off a Zoe Quinn and censor that conversation off the internet? At the time they couldn't. Not so sure in the future. But then you go to scary territory. Like, what if the government wants to censor discussions about something? And here we are today, where in the United States, last time I heard, the Constitution wasn't suspended yet. But some governors, they want to keep people locked up. Some people call it a quarantine. I don't know, like quarantining sounds like keeping the sick people locked up. This seems like keeping the healthy people locked up because you see, you don't want to mess with the curve. And there was this very funny article on Babylon Bee. Did you notice that Snopes stopped fact-checking the Babylon Bee? I definitely, some people think it's because Snopes might have realized that Babylon Bee is a satirical website. I think they stopped fact-checking it because a lot of the articles would come up as true. Now, one of these articles was saying that in order to stop the spread of the virus, scientists encourage people to jump off of buildings. And people who are against that and are being naysayers are being directed by social media to look at the World Health Organizations because they are science deniers. I was like, oh my god, that is a really good satirical article. But it seems that in some states in America, because of the lockdown, people are starting to protest. Some people are being unhappy. And the media wants to paint them as conservatives. And it's true, a lot of them do seem to have been conservative. A lot of them are definitely Trump supporters. But from my personal observation, I do not think it's conservatives rising up. I think it's America's rising up. Because my personal observation, right now, there is a big debate. And people don't want to have the debate. They want to censor the opposition. They want to make sure that the opposition is disappeared from the internet and arrested if they try protesting in real life. In fact, in a place, the police even said that protesting is non-essential. All of a sudden, all our rights are being suspended. And the debate is like this. How long is the lockdown going to keep up? When are we going to restart the economy? And the answer seems to be when there's a vaccine, I guess. But the two sides, again, what I want to say, I don't think it's a left and right leading issue. I think it's mostly blue check marks and people that have a job right now that can work from their own homes versus people who have been laid off recently or people who have been laid off last month. I think that's the real issue, and the media doesn't want to talk about it. And I'll tell you something else. If you're a person like a journalist at Vox, for example, and you're forced to work in one of these big open offices, and you have a supervisor monitoring and micromanaging your every move, and all of a sudden you get the ability to work from home and you can set your own schedule, you can sleep whatever you want as long as you meet your deadlines, you can do whatever in your own house. Doesn't seem really that tempting to go back to work, does it? Meanwhile, if you're a person that is doing the hunger right now, and I'm telling you this from Eastern Europe, doing the hunger is really bad. It is so bad that I think in the mind of the Westerner, this concept doesn't exist. I don't think a lot of Westerners have gone 1 or 2 days without a meal. I don't think a lot of Westerners, when they were growing up, they watched their mother crying to sleep as she didn't eat anything for the last 3 days so that the kid can get a little bit more to eat. I don't think the West is ready to experience the hunger. In Romania, we experienced the hunger a couple of times, actually. It's not good. It's really bad. And all these people that are making the distinction, it's like, you don't care about human lives. You only care about the economy. There is no difference. They're one and the same. The economy is human lives. You want a hospital, that costs money. You want a vaccine, that costs money. You want doctors, that costs money. You want a supermarket, that costs money. And I'm telling you, all these journalists and, blue check marks and people in high places and offices that are working from home right now, they're not going to be very happy during this autumn. They're not going to be very happy because they rely on ads. They rely on advertisements. They think they're safe. Those ads are going to dry up. You know that I think this might be the first time in history when the price of fuel is minus. Like, no, seriously, fuel companies would pay you to pick up fuel from right now. Why? Because there's too much. There's no more demand. Like, their stores have been filled up. They're picking up more and more, and their warehouse is flooding, and there's nothing they can do with it. I don't know what that means. I'm telling you, it's not good for the economy. Do you know that a German minister of finance has hanged himself? Is that bad? I think it's going to be even worse. And I don't know. Like if the lockdown is the right solution or not. Now, the way I view it is the same way a lot of doctors like myself have viewed it when we were in the hospital. You have an old lady and you diagnose her, you give her checkups and everything. And then you tell her how much the pills cost. And she looks at you with her hand shaking and she says she can't afford it. You gave her the right treatment. It's going to make her better, but she can't afford it. What do? Well, you give her less expensive pills that aren't so good. Maybe this is the solution. Some less expensive treatment, because this idea of keeping people locked up forever isn't going to work. You have to restart the economy. And I keep seeing people freaking out. It's like Trump says, well, we're going to restart the economy in April. People freak out. Maybe we're going to restart it in May. People freak out. When do you want to restart it? I mean, be honest about it. Like, it needs to happen. And apparently the conversation can't even take place. I'm telling you something, though. The voting machine is going to go brrrr, because the elections are coming. And people will remember this. People will remember, because you never actually got the consent of the people to take their jobs away. You know, the people who lost their jobs, they're going to vote. They're still there. They haven't died of starvation yet. So they're going to vote. And I don't know, man. Even if it's like a hardcore convinced person that supported one particular party their entire life, when they realize that the reason they lost their job is because of the lockdown, they might not be so understanding. So, yeah, I mean, this goes to show the power of the government understanding that Facebook is now the mainstream media. They don't even care. Like, notice how the government didn't go to CNN, didn't go to Fox News. They didn't even fucking bother. Why even bother? The way I view it, social media has completely replaced the press. Very similar to how back in the old days when the king wanted to give an announcement to his people, he would use a crier, a little boy that would go in the street and he would say, hear ye, by king's demand, we want you to know, right? That guy was important. Without him, you wouldn't know what the king wants you to do. You wouldn't know the news. Then the printing press happened. And when people learned to read and everyone had the newspaper, the hear ye boy was redundant. Now you have social media, so the press is redundant. You don't get physical newspapers anymore unless you're in certain countries. But yeah, I mean, the number of people that read the newspaper are becoming less and less. Most people like to tune in and go on social media to have the conversation. And the government can't restrict free speech, but I suppose it can convince social media to restrict protests and gatherings and conversations. I don't really like where this is going. And I'm telling you something else. A lot of people that are authoritarian inclined, that would like to gain power in a society, to get people to think their way, they're taking notice of this. And they're realizing it's like, oh, wow, this is very effective. Anyway, this is just a little rant that I noticed. And I was very disappointed to see Facebook colluding with state governments. But we'll see at the next elections. They're coming soon anyway in the United States, aren't they? I don't think they're going to keep people locked down when the elections are happening. And it's going to be very interesting. Muy interesante.